I'll call on Deputy John McGuinness. You have 7.5 minutes.
I firstly want to thank Deputy Ellis and Deputy MacDonald not only for bringing forward this bill, but for the help and support that you have given the families, the families since this became an issue, and in particular over the last few days as they highlighted that issue outside of Leinster House. And I think it shows that, you know, the extent that you have to go to highlight an issue that has happened in different parts of the estates in this country, that has led to death, that has led to injury, and yet we have failed to have a proactive response in relation to all of this. And I appreciate the cross-party support that there is for this bill. This estate is within my own parish and within yards of my constituency office. I attended the funeral, and I want to extend again my sympathy to the Brennan family. And I have to say that it was the greatest outpouring of grief and sadness that I have ever witnessed. And to lose a child of that age in the way that this happened was simply shocking and traumatic for that family. And there is great credit due to Roseanne and all of those that support her in the way that she has gathered the strength and the courage to go out and to highlight this issue, not just for herself and the estate in question in town, but also for all of the other estates throughout the country. And it is certainly something that I have stood back and admired as I watched her make her case. There was no boundaries. She went directly to the Minister, directly to the Taoiseach, directly to councillors and TDs, and she has given radio interviews that a professional would not give. And it's all out of passion for a resolution to the issues that saw her son killed in this way. And I know that Jake will never be forgotten, and I would hope that any bill that would come forward would be described as Jake's law, simply because of the fact that it is something that Jake's mother campaigned for, and it is an issue for them, and the work that she has carried out, I think, needs to be recognised. The other issue that I see in this, Minister, is that Lintown is an estate that you could picture it anywhere, in any country, in any city throughout the country. It's one of those sprawling estates that was built over a number of years, right through the boom. And if the planning had been adhered to, you would have had the traffic ramps. If issues like that were addressed at that time, out of planning, well, then the ramps would have been in place. And it's extraordinary that this death and that other deaths and injuries such as this in estates could have been prevented if you had the ramps in place and if you had the funding flowing to the local authorities to make it happen. So while we're preparing the legislation, there is nothing wrong with local authorities to agree within themselves to provide these ramps. There's nothing to stop them from doing it. And alongside the legislation and alongside what needs to be done, and I respect your interest in this, Minister, and I think that you're sincere about it, and it's great that the government have agreed with this bill, but there's an urgency about it. And that estate doesn't have ramps. Other estates throughout the country don't have ramps either. Or it could be another traffic calming measure that's required. But the council need to be funded. They also need to have the situation regarding the agreements that are made around the speed limits. That needs to be simplified. There's too much bureaucracy around it. There is no one better than a local authority to decide on the speed limit within its own area. But the process that you have to go through to achieve that is lengthy. And in most cases, the demand to achieve it is urgent. And it's seen as being urgent by those that live in these estates, by those that feature in the community aspect of the estates. So they know what they want. In Kilkenny, I know that my own son is a member of the council, Andrew McGuinness, and he has brought forward his plans in relation to that estate and others. And he has got cross-party support. And now the next question is the funding. Because it isn't just Lintown, it's many other estates. And these estates, as I said, Lintown is similar to lots of estates all around the country, and they all have the same problem. And they all come up with the same issue. Yes, let's put in ramps, but who has the money? Where is the money coming from? And I don't see enough speed in the process of providing these ramps by the local authorities. And I think that it should be encouraged and shoved along to ensure that they do it far quicker. I mean, the question is, you know, was Jake's life not enough? And we have to constantly ask ourselves that question. Because as we deal with this legislation and whatever else is needed through local authorities, through funding, through the guards, we have to ensure that it goes beyond this debate and that there is constant engagement in terms of developing ideas that will prevent young lives from being taken. I know that Roseanne would say, and I'm sure she told members of this House, the child isn't just run out on the road. The child is actually being cared for. The parents are being very, very careful. And this happened in a split second. And the child was killed and died in his mother's arms with the tire marks across his body. And that may be graphic, but we need to understand that it goes beyond this debate this evening. It goes beyond this debate, and it has to be highlighted this evening, and thereafter we have to demand action on it. And I would appeal that maybe you should write to every council chairman or every mayor and suggest to them that this bill went through this House, or is going through it, but that in the meantime they could do the various things that need to be done. Not just inform the executive, but inform the mayor or the chairman. Because Roseanne Brennan, her families and her supporters have done this state a great service. And remember, it is out of trauma and sadness and the death of their child that they're doing this. And I would say that Jake's death should be the end. It should be the end. And we should give a really positive response, including funding and everything else, to empower the councils to deliver, not just for that family, but that family and others, and the Brennan family in particular, who are brave enough to see this through.